Today's episode is entirely unprecedented. The entire episode is focused on Gabrielle. Shocking! There's like 6 minutes total of Xena in this entire episode. It's like they suddenly realized they should do something with Gabrielle. What mad world is this? Crazy. Admittedly, the route they used to get us here is just a little bit hackneyed. But I'm not complaining. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna complain a little. I mean, at this point, you have seen my other recaps, yeah? But I complain with love! Anyway, to show you just how crazy cakes this episode is going to be, we open with this ridiculously whimsical thing. Gabrielle has apparently taken up the panpipes. And so we have this montage of Gabrielle just skipping along and playing the panpipes, while Xena kind of walks along behind her looking slightly pained. I don't know why this opening sequence stands out so much to me. I mean, I guess I have some idea. One, the tune she's playing is so ridiculously upbeat and cheerful, I think even Walt Disney would have rejected it. Two, Gabrielle's frolicking. Three, love her as I do, Renee O'Connor is incredibly unconvincing as a panpipe player. I don't know how people actually play panpipes, but I'm pretty sure it's not how you see it on the screen. Anyway, at this point, we start the plot. In the midst of their whimsy, Xena and Gabrielle are set upon by a group of bandits. Apparently, bandits need a gimmick, because these guys have this incredibly gimmicky setup. They basically say, we will rape you and then steal your money and then probably kill you anyway, or we will smush you with our cart of logs. It's kind of incredibly unconvincing. I think the idea is that they've positioned themselves in some place where you have to walk past this very certain narrow part of the road, and that's where they'll smush you. But honestly, it's entirely unconvincing. Every time they go to a long shot, it is clear that they have oodles of room. Obviously, Xena and Gabrielle are going to fight them. So they fight. And then there comes a moment where the log cart is hurtling straight at them, and Gabrielle momentarily freezes, and Xena has to tug her down to safety. And for no good reason, this suddenly starts some sort of existential crisis in Gabrielle. Because based on one mistake, she suddenly decides she's a liability to Xena and has to go home. Which is ridiculous, because Xena was fine. Gabrielle was the only one who's gonna get smushed. Their whole discussion probably takes under a minute for Gabrielle to go from, wow, I can't believe I froze in that incredibly important moment, to, well, I guess I'm going back to Prodigal now, bye! And there's no hug! What is with these people and their lack of hugs? I mean, they just look like sad little wounded puppies, and I think they really just need to hug it out. Whatever. So Gabrielle makes her way to Prodigal. And of course, because why not, Prodigal is being attacked by some guy named Damon. So Gabrielle rushes to get home in time to beat Damon, because apparently she's gonna win this fight single-handed, I don't know. And once she gets there, Gabrielle discovers that the other villagers have hired a warrior to protect them. Meleager the Mighty. And incidentally, the leader of this town has had one of the most unfortunate encounters with Bronzer I think I've ever seen. Meleager eventually stumbles in late to this town meeting, and he's this old guy who kind of totally looks like Kevin Kline. Basically, I spent the entire episode just imagining he was Kevin Kline. And that's a good thing. Anyway, Meleager's kind of a drunkard, and yeah, we're worried about that blah 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 blah, plot, but I want to move on. Because we finally get to meet Damon. And Damon's face is the most magnificent thing I think I've ever seen. And that's not a compliment. I drew a picture. I think plot may have happened in this scene, but I was pretty much too busy drawing my picture to notice. Priorities. I can has them. I think the next thing that happened was Gabrielle and her sister and Meleager went scouting through the woods. I don't really know what they were doing. But there were definitely woods involved. And to show us just how much of a shambles this entire operation is, they miss entirely all of Damon's scouts. But to their credit, they were very cleverly disguised by holding branches in front of their faces. It was pretty hilarious. And it was kind of like a panto version of Burnham Wood. At some point in these proceedings, Meleager gets kidnapped. because he is a very brave and strong and mighty warrior. And Gabrielle has this whole Prince Humperdinck sequence. She's all jumping around and looking at tracks and making observations and assumptions, and I kind of was thinking the whole thing was being played as a joke, and then it was actually serious. Sometimes it's hard to tell on this show. Anyway, it turns out that Damon kidnapped Meleager to try and win him over to his side. And Gabrielle's rescue effort, of course, failed, and she's already been captured because she's Gabrielle, and that's what happens to her. Poor girl. Anyway, through some very clever fake sexy times, they manage to escape. Like you do. And together, they go back to Prodigal and rally the villagers to fight back against Damon. And then we have the world's longest montage of villagers preparing booby traps. The thing just kept on going, and I think by the end of it I had muted the sound and just started singing Eye of the Tiger to myself. It actually worked surprisingly well. So they booby trap the entire city, and Gabrielle and her sister are somehow, for some reason, put on watch, and first Lila falls asleep, and then they decide that as if that weren't enough of a show of complete incompetence, they're gonna have a little sisterly reunion instead of actually, you know, watching out for the soldiers who are on their way and are going to come kill them all? Ha ha ha! Yeah. Luckily, the soldiers are polite enough to wait until all of the reunionating is over before they arrive. It turns out that Meleager has disappeared with the money, and everyone's all like, oh no, I'm so disappointed in him. And so all the villagers want to just wimp out and surrender. But Lila, thanks to their sisterly reunionating, rallies the villagers to fight with Gabrielle as their leader. Does anyone else think this is a bad idea? I mean, bless her little sisterly biased heart, but Lila actually says that Xena has taught her more of the warrior arts than anyone else will ever know about anything. Psst. Lila. I think not. Gabrielle, of course, responds to this with a rousing cry of, come on, you sons of griffins, let's go! I'm totally using that. What I like best about this fight sequence is that it very quickly devolves into the Battle of the Silly Hats. I drew pictures! Because Meleager has returned to save the day, blah, 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 whatever. He got his confidence back because apparently he lost it at some point, and that sounds like plot, so obviously I didn't really pay attention. Anyway, blah, 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 fight, fight, yay, they won! And so, of course, because this is in fact Xena, warrior princess, and not Gabrielle, wandering bard who talks a lot, Gabrielle leaves home to go find Xena. And so we get the show's, like, fourth overlong ridiculous montage of Gabrielle walking back to where she left Xena, whistling the whole time. And yes, I know, I should count my blessings, because while she is in fact whistling the same medley from the panpipes, she's not actually playing them. Thank you, Santa. And inevitably, she runs into the same log cart bandits from before. Except this time, because she's learned her lesson, Gabrielle is able to fight them off and pole vault over their log cart. And unfortunately, again, they showed us this in a long shot where it's very clear she could have walked like 3 steps to the right and been fine. Here's a hint. If it's really obvious your character isn't in danger when you take the camera far back, don't take the camera far back! Honestly, do I have to teach you guys everything? And of course, Xena shows up again whenever things get a little too tight and sticky for Gabrielle. Wow, that sounds really dirty. And they have their own version of happy reunionating. Without a hug. Seriously, is this a thing? If it's not a thing, I'm making it a thing. Why don't these two hug? I drew another picture.